Hello, everyone, and welcome to the White Rock Minerals Live Corporate Update webinar. White Rock is publicly listed on the OTCQX under the symbol WRMCF and on the Australian Stock Exchange under the symbol WRM. Joining us today is the company's Managing Director and CEO, Matt Gill, who will be going through White Rock's recent investor presentation. Matt will be covering a brief overview of the company's current operations and upcoming milestones at its Red Mountain silver-rich zinc and gold project in Alaska and its recently acquired Woods Point gold project located in Victoria, Australia. We will be opening it up to live Q&A following Matt's presentation. So if you are interested in asking a question and are logged into the Zoom platform on any device, you can submit your questions to us directly in the chat module. Please note, this presentation is being recorded today, Tuesday, November 2nd, and will be soon made available on the company's website at whiterockminerals.com.au. Lastly, RBMG is not a registered investment advisor or broker-dealer. For more information, please visit rbmilestone.com. It is now my pleasure to introduce you to Managing Director and CEO of White Rock Minerals. Matt Gill, the floor is yours.
Thanks, Trevor, and thanks to the RB Milestone Group for this opportunity. So thank you, ladies and gentlemen, for taking the time on your afternoon to listen to the White Rock story. It was a good introduction by Trevor. As he touched on, we have the three assets, and you can see a photo of each in this first slide. And I'll touch on each of those assets in not quite that order, but also a little bit about the company as well. As mentioned, you will find this on our website. We are ASX listed, so there is a disclaimer, cautionary statement. I do recommend that you read that at your leisure. So just a question. I'm not a financial advisor, and I encourage you to do your own research. But what I think an investor might like to be interested in with the White Rock story is our asset base. I think risk diversification is quite important in a small junior. We are in three commodities, which I think is important, three jurisdictions, and each of the assets, the three assets that we have, do offer multiple opportunities. The three assets, as I mentioned, we've got two here in Australia, one in New South Wales, one in Victoria, where I'm based, and the third one in Alaska. We've got significant exploration ground holdings across those three assets. The recently acquired Woods Point gold project here in Victoria, a large tenement package in Alaska, and as I mentioned, New South Wales project that White Rock was listed on Mount Carrington back in 2010. So the commodity diversification is important. I think in the precious metal space, it's a great area to be in, and I think base metals is also a good cornerstone to any asset base. Our Red Mountain Alaskan asset has JORC resources, and you can see significant amounts of zinc, silver, and gold. Mount Carrington also has a JORC resource, significant gold and silver. Woods Point, just acquired. I'll touch on that. We're drilling as we speak. It's got a significant historical past production of over 800,000 ounces, but we all know that past production is no guarantee of future, but there's certainly great opportunities there, and I will unpack on that. So if you added up all those JORC resources, you can see the White Rock asset base is a significant endowment of over 3 million ounces of gold equivalent, and you can do your own maths knowing the current gold price. So that's one indication of the potential value or underlying value that I think White Rock does present to the investor. I think important, not just jurisdiction risk, sovereign risk is a big issue, but also I think important for the investor to have a look at who's running the business. Have they done it before? Who's handling the shareholder money? Are they able to extract value from those assets, get that reflected in the share price for the benefit of shareholders? And I think that's one of my primary roles. So a couple of mining engineers, Peter Lester, very well experienced, based in Perth. We've got two directors in the UK, Jeremy and Chris, and Paul, based in Sydney, So good, diverse range, technical, corporate, business management, capital markets. We've also got a great technical management team aside from myself. We've got two very, very capable accountants, company secretary and a CFO. Lionel is the general manager at the Woods Point Gold Project, very experienced. Rowan, geologist, unique geologist in exploration company, and hopefully many on this call have heard of Dr. Quinton Hennig, based in Denver, is now technical advisor to Crescat, and I'll touch on Crescat. They are our major shareholder, Denver-based gold fund. So a good suite of finance, accounting, geology and mining. So the three assets, where are we? So Victoria, I'm based here in Ballarat, famous gold mining centre here in Victoria. We only acquired the Woods Point Gold Project about 2 months ago. And I will unpack that story a little bit for the listener. I'd like to think that we're out of the blocks quickly and running hard as we speak. Our asset in Alaska, due south of Fairbanks, I'll touch on that. It is a significant high-grade zinc silver. VMS stands for volcanogenic massive sulfide, so it's polymetallic. So it does have economic levels of zinc, silver, gold and lead. And ironically, the time zone actually gives us a really good overlap between the east coast of Australia and Alaska. And then last but not least, our Mount Carrington project. It's on mining lease, it's got feasibility study, and we're being free carried through the approvals process by our joint venture partner, Thomson Resources. So that's the three assets in a nutshell. It's a bit more of a description of the three, excuse me, Woods Point, Red Mountain in Alaska and Mount Carrington. I'm not going to read everything there. You can read that at your leisure, but you can see that each asset has particular and I think very exciting characteristics that I think allow us to focus on extracting some of the value within each of those assets. The Woods Point Gold Project, as I mentioned, we only acquired that 2 months ago. It's had a long history from the 1800s. That photo is the Morningstar gold mine. That shaft goes down 800 metres. There's a gold processing plant that we acquired, along with the 660 square kilometres. Some people may not know much about Victoria. It has had a significant gold production history. Following the gold rushes in California, there was a significant gold rush here in Victoria, and a lot of Melbourne, a lot of Victoria was built on the gold rushes that came out of Ballarat and Bendigo. But that's not to forget also Woods Point, Walhalla Goldfield produced over 6 million ounces in its own right. In the modern era, many listeners may well have heard of Kirkland Lake and the extremely high-grade, world-class Fosterville gold mine. Well, that's here in Victoria as well. And I think it's Fosterville's success that shows that uptick in this graph of gold production. So you can see in the early years, the gold rush years, went quiet for much of the 19th and 20th century, and then recently great success. And we, White Rock, being based in Victoria, believe it's an extremely valuable asset to add to our portfolio, given our assets in New South Wales and Alaska. When we acquired it, we acquired that tenement block in yellow. It's had significant past production. There are at least 10 historical mines, all producing over half an ounce and more like an ounce per tonne. There is a regional geological setting not dissimilar to Fosterville. Previous work by the company that owned it before we merged with them identified many significant targets. This land package has not had systematic exploration and all modern exploration, and we see that as a great opportunity. It also came with the existing Morningstar gold mine. Famous gold mine, produced over 800,000 ounces at almost an ounce a tonne. Infrastructure already there. The shaft goes down 800 metres. It's currently flooded below 10 levels, so about below 300 metres. And we're working away above that. It won't take much to dewater that, and I'll explain why and when we will be doing that dewatering. As I mentioned, significant infrastructure, mining leases, and that gold processing plant photo. There are two great opportunities within this mine that we see: gap zone and areas above 9 level. We started some drilling by the previous company in around June in Kenny's target area in that bottom right. That picture is a diagram of the areas above 9 level. Many areas not drilled, and we see that as very exciting, and that's what we're currently doing. We announced only a month or so ago some significant intersections. Now, while narrow, 1/2 to 1 metre, significant grades over 2 ounces a tonne, and that's typical of a high-grade, narrow vein, nuggety gold reef system in Victoria. And we see this as very exciting once you get onto these pay runs. They can be extremely rich in ore value. But we've also identified an area called the gap zone, an area of 10 level produced over 500,000 ounces historically. An area below 14 level produced over 300,000 ounces historically. But in the middle, the gap, very little drilling, and that's what we've started to drill. We mobilised the drill. We started drilling there a couple of weeks ago, and that's a photo on the bottom right of that drill. So within 2 months of taking ownership of the asset, we're testing this, what we think is highly prospective. We don't believe there's any geological reason why there aren't similar ounces to be found in this gap zone. But there is more. There is an area above 6 level, Dickinson South, that we believe is also under-drilled and highly prospective. And a second drill started there only a few weeks ago, and that photo on the top is that drill. The beauty here is that we can drill this from surface rather than from underground, and we can cover the full length of this geological dike. So we see great opportunities, regional exploration and also in-mine exploration at Woods Point. With the merger, we believe that it adds a third leg to the White Rock story. As I mentioned, it provides significant regional exploration opportunity, given it hasn't had systematic exploration. In this COVID world, it can be a challenge to operate, manage, progress a project outside of your own jurisdiction. And so having an asset in the home state of the company, I think, is also very important and offers news flow around the year, given that news flow out of Alaska is cyclical, seasonal, given the Alaskan winter. So our plan in mine, as I mentioned, is so the processing plant is ready to go. The winder works, the gold processing plant works. It's on care and maintenance while we do this underground and surface drilling to prove up sufficient economic ounces before we recommence. And we've got the regional overlay as well. We're taking a longer term view there. It's a significant land package, systematic exploration. So we'll be running those two things in parallel. I think that's a pretty exciting time for this asset and for the company. If you just look at White Rock on a Victorian gold peers basis only, without any consideration for our New South Wales asset and without any consideration for our significant Alaskan asset, you can see, compared to our other peers in Victoria, that there's an opportunity. And I think that's what we want to aim for. We want to move White Rock's valuation, reflected in its share price, get that into the hands of the shareholder by moving where we are to the left to get better valuation, and that's the opportunity. Briefly on Red Mountain, the geologists were very imaginative. You can see it from Google Earth. It is an iron-stained gossan. We are 100 kilometres due south of Fairbanks. We acquired it about 5 years ago. It was last in the public domain by a company called Grade Resources, TSXV listed. Grade were acquired by Agnico Eagle. Agnico Eagle didn't have any interest in this asset, and some contractors picked it up, and there it sat for 20 years until we did a deal with the contractors and acquired it about 5 years ago. When we acquired it, it was only 15 square kilometres in size, and now it's 836 square kilometres. We've just finished our 4th season on the ground, and it's a wonderful geological package. It's got this silver zinc VMS and also gold IRGS, and I'll touch on that in a moment. Underpinned already by a maiden JORC resource, grading over 600 grams per tonne silver equivalent, or flipped another way, because zinc is the dominant metal, 13% zinc. So significant asset base already in a significant land package. We've got multiple targets. To the right there, to the east, we've got VMS, so the volcanogenic massive sulfide, where the JORC resources sit, but we've got other targets that if the season was longer, we would still be drilling. The season there finished in mid-September with the odd set of winter. So many targets still to drill there. Out to the west, out to the left, we've also got western VMS targets. We only discovered those a year ago, and we're yet to put a hole in any of those targets. So that sits there for next year. And January last year, we announced the discovery of this large last chance IRGS, which stands for Intrusive Related Gold System. So that gold system, not dissimilar to others in the area, and I'll touch on that. So a great land package of 2 geological domains. VMS, so there are some photos of chalcopyrite rich, which is copper rich, and also sulfide rich, so zinc, lead. We expanded our package during this year based on the discoveries that we made. We made these 2 discoveries this year. So that's how we've been able to grow this project and the multiple targets that we have in front of us. But as I said, we also have a gold target. We sit in what's known as the Tintina Gold Belt. It's host to significant gold deposits. Pogo, many people have probably heard of Fort Knox, run by Kinross, and also Donlin Barrick's joint venture, 45 million ounce project. So we're in a great land package, as I mentioned, VMS and gold. We found this last chance, we discovered this last chance gold target, 15 square kilometres in size, significant assays. I'm a mining engineer. My comment is this gold has come from somewhere. We just have to find where it came from. We got some drilling done last year. Unfortunately, we didn't get as much drilling there done this year. We had significant challenges, as every other company in Alaska did, securing drills. We had 3 drills at one stage. The contractor struggled to hang on to the workforce. They were attracted to the lower 48 to all year working, for instance, in Nevada. So that was a frustration for us. I know it was a frustration for shareholders, but we were able to do drilling on our VMS, and we were able to make discoveries, and we still have lots of assays going through the lab. Lesson out of that, we're already talking to drillers to secure drills for next year. Touch on Mount Carrington, so our 3rd project in northern New South Wales. It's 2 hours inland from Byron Bay for those that may know that part of the world. It's a beautiful part of the world. JORC resource, JORC reserve, it's on mining lease. You can see the photo, top right. You literally walk onto ore. It's got a tailings dam, feasibility study done, and we're fortunate to sign a joint venture agreement with ASX listed Thomson Resources, where they will now take the pre-feasibility study forward to definitive. They will take the environmental studies through to an environmental impact statement and approvals. And on achieving that, they'll earn 1% of the Mount Carrington asset. All the while, White Rock is free carried. Thomson cover the care and maintenance and put some cash into the White Rock bank account. So we think that this joint venture is a great win-win. For us, it allows us to focus on our Alaskan asset and our Victorian asset, all the while cornerstoned with the Mount Carrington asset, so the shareholder remains exposed to the gold and silver of this project whilst it's being advanced, excuse me, whilst it's being advanced by Thomson Resources. So as I mentioned, a couple of stages: get to development consent, get to final investment decision, so ready to build. Thomson would move to 51%. They can move to 70% by paying White Rock $12.5 million Australian in cash, and then it would be a 70-30 joint venture, and it would be built, and away we'd go. So they're the 3 assets, ladies and gentlemen. Just a little bit of the company snapshot. So no debt, end of September, $9 million Australian cash in bank. So a nice position. Market cap around 40 million. A share price fairly steady around the 30 cents. And top shareholders, you'll see that there's a lot of nominee companies. Our major shareholder is Crescat, as I mentioned, Denver-based gold fund. Very important, very supportive of our Alaskan asset, but also very supportive of our Victorian gold project. Couple of high net worths. About 1/3 of our register is in fact out of the North American space, and most of those out of the US, and hence our OTCQX listing. And imminently, we should have DTC eligibility, so direct transfer share trading for the retail investor. We've also got a significant, about 25% of our register is out of Europe. So a nice spread between North America, Europe and Australia. So look, with that, ladies and gentlemen, I will finish my presentation. I will hand the microphone back to Trevor, and I'm happy to answer any questions. You can see our details there, and as I mentioned, please go to our website also if you're after any more information. Thank you.
Thank you, Matt. If you are interested in asking a question and are logged into the Zoom webinar platform or on your mobile device, you can submit your question to us directly in the chat module. I will now start off with the questions that have been submitted to us prior to today's event. White Rock recently acquired a gold project in Victoria, namely the Woods Point Gold Project. Why Victoria?
So look, that is a good question. As I mentioned, a couple of reasons. Having joint ventured Mount Carrington, that did create some free air for White Rock to continue its growth opportunities. And Alaska is seasonal on the ground between May and September. And so White Rock was always looking for a third leg to its portfolio. And we're based here in central Victoria. Victoria is going through a great gold renaissance, as I mentioned, thanks to Fosterville. There are many TSXV companies now here as well as Australian. And so the opportunity to merge with ASX listed Austar Gold presented itself. And with Austar Gold came that significant underexplored, highly prospective land package in Victoria, along with mining leases, a gold processing plant and an underground mine. So we felt that fitted our opportunity for growth in a time zone that we can handle, in a space that the board and management team are experienced in gold and exploration and development. And I think also, as I mentioned, importantly, in a COVID world, having something closer to home that you can manage, I think is very, very important. I do think many resources companies will struggle and continue to struggle with COVID and border closures and restrictions. So that was important. And it provides year-round news flow. So they were many of the boxes that this acquisition ticked.
Thank you, Matt. What approximate percentage has been explored at the Woods Point project and Red Mountain?
So Woods Point has had very little exploration in the modern era. There's been some ad hoc soil mapping, sampling, almost no regional exploration drilling, despite there being over 10 historical gold mines running high grades. So the terrain is challenging, it's hilly, but we're used to that. So that's what we think is the opportunity, is that underexplored nature. So, you know, I can't put a percentage on it, but it's had very, very little drilling at all and very little systematic exploration. In Alaska, as I mentioned, we started off with 15 square kilometres. We're now out to over 800 square kilometres. We still have many targets identified from airborne geophysics, on-ground geophysics and geochem. So dozens of targets identified for follow-up and for drilling. And as I mentioned, we're blessed with this VMS horizon, but also this intrusive related gold horizon. So again, percentage explored, given that 4 years ago, it wasn't under tenement control and now 800 square kilometres is, it's wide open again for exploration upside.
Can you provide additional color on the Alaskan drilling season and any challenges you foresee?
Yeah, I touched on that. So we tendered for drilling earlier this year in February, with the season to start in May. This is our fourth season. We use a great team out of Fairbanks. We don't try and run it from Ballarat. We secured 2 contractors and 3 drills. But like others, including Trilogy in joint venture with South 32, they also reported difficulties securing and hanging on to drills. So it was a red hot season in Alaska. The drilling contractors were under significant pressure to hang on to their crews. We had deep conversations on how to hang on to them, and unfortunately we could keep 1.5 drill rigs going, but we couldn't keep all 3 going. So those targets are still there. They're still there to be tested next year. They haven't gone away. A little bit frustrating though, because we were ready, willing and able and geared to run 3 rigs. So that's a lesson, but we weren't the only ones that suffered there. So we're already talking to contractors this side of Christmas, not the other side of Christmas, about what we could do to secure a drill rig. So that's one important part. And like every other company in Alaska, the assay laboratory turnaround has been a real challenge. Very, very slow. Everyone's frustrated by that, including ourselves. We took the initiative and engaged a second laboratory to try and move the assays through. So they're just some of the challenges. It's part of the tapestry of working in North America and Alaska. We've learned a few things, and we will always continue to improve and certainly be a bit more ready with drills when we come to the 2022 season.
What can investors expect moving forward on a milestone basis at your Woods Point Gold Project and at Red Mountain?
So I've just outlined that we only got the keys to Woods Point 2 months ago. Within 2 months, we've already got 2 drills turning at the Morningstar Gold Mine, and they will go through into the new year. And so there'll be news flow, hopefully, as they intersect high-grade reefs, hopefully. That's why we drill. There's no guarantee, but we're very confident that will generate success. And in parallel, we're working up a regional exploration program with our 660 square kilometres of land package that I mentioned. And we're going to take our time on that. You know, as I said, we've only had the keys for 2 months. It's a long-term view. It's a significant land package. There are multiple targets. We want to work out where to go first, and we also need to work into that the government approvals work plan process, so that we can get low impact exploration occurring. So they're the milestones going into 2022. Very exciting there. In Alaska, it's winter now, but we've got hundreds of soil samples and hundreds of rock chip samples still coursing their way through the laboratory. So we want to see the results of that, because that's the work that we've done over the last few years that has continued to generate targets for the following year. We've done that year on year. As I mentioned, we started with 15 square kilometres. We've expanded year on year based on those results. And so we'll wait to see those results, formulate a plan and work out what we're going to do. And that's the beauty of having a winter in Alaska. It gives you breathing space to look at the assay results, look at all of the data, the airborne geophysics, the on-ground geochem, and work out what we want to do come 2022.
Thank you, Matt. Regarding Last Chance, how many drill holes were achieved this year at Last Chance, and have any drill results been announced? Any color on that?
Yeah, so we've announced all of those previously. As I mentioned, when we struggled with the contractor maintaining drills, we had to work out where did we want to keep drilling, and we elected to keep drilling at the high-grade silver zinc rich VMS. And we announced one of those drill hole results about a month or 2 ago. You know, that drill hole result was, from memory, around 5 metres of 17% zinc equivalent, so high grade, significant. And that drill hole was 200 metres below the nearest drill hole. So we effectively were able to demonstrate that Dry Creek resource is potentially twice the depth, which then geologically suggests that it could be open for its kilometre along strike. So that's where we focused that drill. To the question, at Last Chance, we've announced that. I think we only got 1 or 2, from memory, 1 or 2 holes into that prospect. Now, I need to remind the listener that prospect is 15 square kilometres in size. We only discovered it in January last year. We got about 8 sighter holes into it last year. Unfortunately, we didn't get as many holes into it this year, but that target still remains. The size of the prize is still there. And as I mentioned, that's there ready for 2022.
With Chris Catt's ownership of around 18% and the other larger shareholders and institutions that are involved in White Rock, do you see that they will be supportive in the growth of White Rock and its newly added asset and the existing assets it is trying to advance when it comes to capital raises moving forward?
So Chris Catt at 8%, I think you might have said 18, it's 8%.
Yeah.
Yep. So look, I'm not gonna, I'm not in the mind of Chris Catt. You know, they are very successful gold and silver portfolio investment managers, extremely successful. You can go onto their website and do your own research. All I can say is that they are a major shareholder. They've been there now for 2 years. I can also say that they were a major shareholder of Ozstar, so the Woods Point Gold Project, prior to the merger. So you can form your own view that they were, you know, they liked the Woods Point Gold Project and they were already invested in White Rock. Their intentions going forward, look, that's up to them. You know, we've had great engagement, great support to date. We talk regularly with Quinton Hennig, who is their technical advisor. Quinton's been great, both as a geologist to give us his views on Alaska in particular, but also Quinton's access to the North American capital markets has been very valuable for White Rock. So look, I'd love to think that relationship continues going forward, but dynamics change and Chris Catt will continue to look at their portfolio, I'm sure.
Thank you, Matt. With the diversification in assets, one may assume that there may be an increase in budget. Can you touch on your previously recorded or announced cash position and perhaps budget moving forward and amongst, you know, on the capital raise side?
No, look, we don't comment, haven't commented, and I'm not going to comment on something that's not in the public domain. So I think the listener, whoever asked that question, would understand that. Yeah, we have 9 million Aussie in the bank. That's allowing us to get 2 drills turning at Woods Point as we speak. In terms of plans going forward, look, as we work our way through them, you know, we'll be letting the market know clearly.
Thank you, Matt. And we'll take one more question and I'll put the ball in your court, Matt. Are there any points or highlights you would like to end on?
So look, thanks, Trevor. Look, I'd like to thank the listener, either shareholder or potential shareholder. You know, White Rock is a $40 million market cap. I'd like to think that the investor can see, you know, 3 solid assets with lots of upside. I'm not the last managing director that will ever say we're undervalued, but collectively we have 3 million ounces of gold equivalent, over 1,000 square kilometres of exploration ground in 3 projects. We have a significantly, deeply experienced board and management team, including Quinton. And I'd like to think that White Rock has been able to demonstrate that we are up and going. You know, we are able to execute joint ventures. We are able to execute mergers. We are able to execute exploration programs, whether they be in Alaska or in Victoria. You know, again, the listener needs to do their own research, but and it is my job to extract that latent value that I do see in our assets and try and get that into the hands of the shareholder through our market cap and our share price.
Thank you, Matt. And thanks everybody for joining. Today's webinar recording will soon be made available on White Rock's website, which is at whiterockminerals.com.au. If you would like to continue the conversation with Matt, we are currently hosting one-on-ones and group meetings. If you have any additional questions that have not been addressed on today's webinar or would like to schedule a follow-up meeting, please feel free to email us at whiterock@rbmilestone.com. Again, that's whiterock@rbmilestone.com. Thanks again. You are now free to disconnect.